Hello, 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 my friends. Welcome to day 14 of Discover Crowsnest Pass. Whew, day 14, 2 weeks. I originally said that I was gonna do this every day, but some of you might have noticed I don't do it every day anymore. It was a little bit much, and I have a few other projects on the go, but I'm still trying to do as many of them as possible, and I love getting you outside. So what we are trying to do at Uplift Adventures is bring the outdoors to you during this time. And today, today what we're gonna do is we are gonna go down the Miner's Path. And during this trip today, I'm gonna tell you 5 things that make Crowsnest Pass special. Quite a bit of my time here with you guys have been talking about the heritage of Crowsnest Pass, and I can't say that I'm an expert in heritage. There are definitely some historians that I know and I talk to a lot, and I use people at the Crowsnest Museum and at the Frank Slide Interpretive Center, and you know, those people are incredibly knowledgeable, and I pick their brains a lot, and I read a lot. I read a lot of books, so I'm always trying to find out more. And one of the bonuses of the knowledge that I have is that I have also done a lot of training with the Interpretive Guide Association, and through that training it has allowed me to understand the history of the national parks. And so I compare that history of the national parks to the history of Crowsnest Pass. So that's really neat too. So I get to combine all of this different information. But my knowledge base is actually the environment. So I've grown to get better at the heritage, but my knowledge base is the environment. I am an environmental scientist. That's what I went to university for. I am still a professional agrologist. It is deferred right now because I'm focusing on building the business, and then I eventually am going to be bringing in conservation tourism to Uplift Adventures, which I'll tell you more about another day. But today I want to share with you 5 things that make Crowsnest Pass special. And it's a little bit more to do with the environment. So come along with me up the Miner's Path.
I'll find the real one later on, 'cause I can't wash this face.
The first thing I want to tell you about that makes Crowsnest Pass special, and makes the South Canadian Rockies special, is a geology term called the Lewis thrust. So thrust, faults, those are terms that you quite often hear in geology, as well as uplift, which is part of the reason why I called Uplift Adventures Uplift Adventures. It's because it's a feeling, but it's also the way that our mountains were formed and they were uplifted. So in Waterton and all the ways up to Crowsnest Pass and past Crowsnest Pass, we get something called the Lewis thrust. And what that is, it is the way the mountains were formed, and it pushed this old sedimentary rock up over top of younger sedimentary rock. So we have some of the oldest exposed sedimentary rock visible in the South Canadian Rockies. So very, very, very old rock. And then it is uplifted up and over top of this young sedimentary rock. So when you go and you look at Crowsnest Mountain, for example, you see some of this sedimentary Lewis thrust rock that you find. And that's what makes Crowsnest Pass special. The second thing I want to tell you about that makes Crowsnest Pass special is that it has volcanic rock. So finding volcanic rock in the Canadian Rockies is very, very rare. I know a lot of geology students come down to Crowsnest Pass because it's just fascinating. The rock here is just super interesting. I am hiking along Miner's Path. Now behind me we have sedimentary rock, but there is a little bit of volcanic rock along the Miner's Path. I don't show you in this just because this is part of my, that is a part of my interpretive trip that I do up the Miner's Path, and there are quite a few things that I talk about up the Miner's Path that I leave out of this because it is meant for my interpretive trip. And I've spent countless hours creating that interpretive trip up the Miner's Path. But it is super stunning, and to find volcanic rock is super, super, super rare in the Canadian Rockies. It does happen, but not very often. So we have this layer of what's called the Crowsnest Volcanics. You mostly see it along the Willoughby Ridge. I see it a lot on Wedge Mountain. I've heard of people finding volcanic rock on Crowsnest Mountain, but Ironstone you'll find volcanic rock, and it's super neat. If you know what you're looking for, it's just a fabulous find. I mean, when the volcanoes were around here, this was happening 100 million years ago. So when our mountains were building was over 65 million years ago, and that's when dinosaurs were around. Our mountains aren't building anymore, so we don't get like these crazy volcanic eruptions anymore. We don't even see the evidence of a volcano anymore, except for the fact that we see this volcanic rock, but we don't see a volcano crater anymore. It's been eroded. We've gone through so many things in geology that we just don't see that. I mean, we see a lot of evidence from glaciers and a lot of evidence from water erosion now. So we don't see that volcano crater anymore. Second thing.
I'll find the real one later on.
The third thing I want to tell you about that makes Crowsnest Pass special is the biodiversity of this area. So in Crowsnest Pass, it's a very narrow width of the Canadian Rockies. Same with Waterton, and same with as you continue north, it's a narrow width. When you go up to Banff, Lake Louise, and you go up to Jasper, the mountains of the Canadian Rockies are much wider. Like if east to west, it's a much wider width. And that's just the way that the mountains were formed and how many thrusts there are, how many major thrusts there are. And in the south, there's only one major thrust in the South Canadian Rockies. And why that makes it special is because now you have a higher degree of biodiversity. So biodiversity means types of species in your environment. For plants, for example, we started seeing plants evolve and mix with different types of seeds. So you have the prairies that's just to the east of us, and then you have the Pacific that's not too far to the west, and then you have the montane and the alpine environments. And now, because of this narrow width of the Canadian Rockies, you have all these seeds that are collecting and mingling and interacting with each other, and it creates a higher diversity rate. Now with that, that's why we have a lot of rare species in the Castle Parks, for example, and we also have a lot of species at risk as well. So there are species in southern Alberta that you won't find in Banff and Lake Louise. Like a big example, you don't find this one as far north as Crowsnest Pass, but it comes pretty close to Crowsnest Pass, is the beargrass. I mean, that's a prime example, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful plant. It's actually a lily, not a grass. But you find it in Waterton quite heavily, and you find it in the Castle Parks as well, and it's stunning to see it blooming. So that's the third thing that makes Crowsnest Pass special, is the biodiversity.
All full of disgrace, so I wake up again.
The fourth thing that I want to tell you about that makes Crowsnest Pass special is that we are at the headwaters. So what the headwaters means is that the water literally comes out of the mountains and goes into the streams here. So the Alberta-BC border is the Great Divide. So we are just on the east side of the Great Divide in Crowsnest Pass, and the water on this side of the Great Divide flows out to the east. So into Saskatchewan and Manitoba. The Milk River comes up from the US and goes back down into the US, and that one eventually drains into the Mississippi River. So the water that's coming out of our mountains comes right from springs, right from underground and flows out. We do not have any glaciers left anymore in Crowsnest Pass, so all of the water is spring fed, or it comes from precipitation during the winter and the summertime. So that makes it really important that we make sure the quality of our water is clean, because we don't have a lot of it anymore. We don't have the glaciers feeding into our headwaters. We just have that spring water and that water that comes from our atmosphere. So that's another thing that makes Crowsnest Pass special, is that we are right at the headwaters. It's about a 10-minute drive for me to get over to BC from this spot. And then once I go into BC, I start noticing that the rivers run in the opposite direction. So the Elk River flows out west, and that water eventually runs into the Pacific Ocean.
All full of disgrace. I wake up again, wearing yesterday's makeup.
Woohoo! So I made it to Rainbow Falls, up on the Miners Path and along the Nez Perce Creek. And now I get to tell you my 5th thing of what makes Crowsnest Pass special, and that has to do with the caves. So there are an exceptionally large amount of caves, and world-class caves too, that are in and around Crowsnest Pass. So if you have a lot of limestone in an area, which we do have a lot of limestone, is that limestone is slightly basic and our rainwater is slightly acidic. So with the combination of those two over millions of years, we have an extensive caving system. So there are a lot more things that make Crowsnest Pass special, but I just wanted to keep it to 5 simple things for this tour today.
Things than I think I am. And other times I'm worse. I can't wash this face, all full of disgrace. So I wake up again, wearing yesterday's makeup. I can't wash this face, all full of disgrace.
Well, this ends our tour today. Thank you for tuning in. This is 5 things that make Crowsnest Pass special. My hair makes it special. Ooh, yeah. So 5 things that make Crowsnest special. There are certainly a lot more than 5 things, but we wanted to share 5 things with you today. Remember to do the Door to Adventure challenge, so hashtag Door to Adventure challenge. Leave right from your door, don't use any motors, and go on an adventure. That might just be in your own backyard. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but we want to see what you come up with and how creative you are with your adventures. Thank you for joining me on the Miners Path today. If you liked it, come join a snowshoe and brunch, or a hike, wine and dine, or a hike and brunch when we are able to explore together again. And I have an interpretive trip that we go on, and we go exploring through the McGillivray Mines and a lot of the Miners Path. So thank you for joining me. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay awesome, my friends. Missed you lots. Mwah.
I can't wash this face, all full of disgrace. I wake up again,